What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Exchange for our review of the Bad Batch finale. Mike and I just finished watching the episode about 2 minutes ago, and because I've got to go catch a flight in an hour, we had to sit down and record straight away. But I'm glad we are anyway, because this is going to be our raw sort of reaction to the finale that was. Before we get into it, though, Mike, how you going today?
I'm doing great. It's a big day. We got Bad Batch finale. We got you leaving, so it's a very sad day.
Yeah. For sure. No, yeah, emotions are running high after that finale. I mean, boy, oh boy. Let's just get straight into it. What are your overall thoughts about the series, about the episode, about just everything post watching that?
Everything's very raw right now, but I'm just happy. I'm a happy camper. I still need to go back and rewatch some things, and I'm still not sure how I feel about how some of the things wrapped up, but like that was good. Like that hit the feels, right? And that's what you want away from these finales. Yeah, that was just it ended off on a kind of on a bittersweet note. It just really did, and I'm just curious to where all these, it just feels like they're setting up a story about the Clone Rebellion with there at the end with Echo and what's the scientist name? Emery.
Yeah.
It just feels like they're setting up another Clone Rebellion story, and I mean, if we got in like 5 years, on Disney Plus, another 3 season type show, I'm down. Like I'm down. But yeah, that was really sweet, and I love the like Hemlock in this finale. Like it's completely like a mad scientist. Like he didn't even sound the same, which was great, and it just gave me an 80s vibe. The way they were out there at the end
in the rain.
It was just great. I don't know
who the voice actor is, but that was like just a bit of dialogue that he did that you're talking about, with that his voice just changed, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So I gotta say, like I'm pretty pleased with the finale. I'm not sure where it ranks up with my animation finales, but this was I love that it just felt very different from what we're used to.
Yes.
And the runtime was in total like 51 minutes.
Thank you.
Which, right, we were very concerned about at first, because you could not wrap up you couldn't even wrap up the season in a 22-minute standard or 25-minute standard runtime. You needed to expand, go a little bit outside that. But overall, I'm just happy. Like that was great. I mean, we got so many things kind of answered. I hate how they were like, do you want to know what Project Necromancer is? And
I know. I didn't. I literally just thought that.
They skipped over that. I was like, oh, and I there's so many things that I still have questions about, and I'm sure once I rewatch the whole season, I'm gonna get back to the finale and be like, that didn't really work out for me the second time. But upon first viewing, I'm like, wow, that's really hard hitting. Love the messaging at the end, and the epilogue. I wasn't sure if there was gonna be an epilogue, but I think T. Bradley Baker kind of alluded to an epilogue or something in like a teaser post he did. So pretty happy with that. I mean, now it just seems like tradition for these animated series to do epilogues. And Rebels, we got the Sabine voiceover epilogue. Then we got in Clone Wars, we got the one with Vader reaching up the Venator crash site. And now we have this one with Omega and Hunter set years and years after Bad Batch and seemingly in the Age of Rebellion era. So this is great. I mean, I'm glad Omega lived. I'm glad the Bad Batch lived, and it wasn't going. I was very scared we're gonna lose Crosshair, so I'm glad he lived. One person that I'm like, damn, like I thought they were gonna take a different turn was Rampart. I thought he was gonna be the callous of the show, and he's out. And also, Tech is really dead.
Thank God.
So, I mean, at one point I was like, oh no, I have a bad feeling one of them is Tech. One of those like anti Clone Force 99 guys. Like, he was pretty worried, and I was like, oh, I feel that coming. And still even though they killed the agent, the operative, there was still this like a moment that the camera laid on Hunter and the operative that I'm like, wait, is that actually Tech? Are they going to take the helmet off and realize they killed Tech? So, I mean, it was still up in the air, but I'm glad that Tech is dead, and they've honored him enough, I think, in the show.
And that just perfect way at the end there. Hunter and Omega are the heart of the show, and that epilogue was as much as that, but we still got reference to Crosshair, Wrecker, and then Tech, of course, with the goggles at the end. And I'm glad that was just how that was. And Echo, as much as he is part of the batch, they don't want to mention him because I'm sure they're doing something with him in the future. And
Right.
I think anyone that's watched all this 3 seasons,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, anyone that has watched 3 seasons of the show can say Echo was great, but he was pretty much absent in all of season 1, like emotionally, and then halfway through season 2, he pretty much left. So, and I'm fine with that. I'm like, okay, he's still a part of the batch, but I think he sort of is going down his own path, and Clone Force 99 is like has lived happily ever after.
Right. And I'm glad the writers realized that, hey, we have too many people in this kitchen to cook. Like, we need to get some people out. So I'm glad that they, they decided, hey, we need to kill off somebody, and they killed off Tech, and then they had Echo doing something else, because at one point it just felt like the narrative was getting too overstuffed in terms of perspectives, because you could only do so much with 5 people during an episode, where it's like someone's gotta like move out the way. Someone has to be a clear lead, that I think Rebels did perfectly. But I think at the beginning of this series, they really struggled to find a yeah, we have Omega, but it was every week. It was like 1 week Wrecker with Omega, 1 week Hunter, 1 week Echo, 1 week Tech, and it just felt like we were getting lost in the sauce. But they figured it out, and yeah, I mean, like, again, I think we need to do this is just going to be a finale review, but if you're okay with it, we should totally do a series review, so we can just talk in depth about all the other stuff. But yeah, I mean, again, I'm pleased with all this. Nala Se, do you think in your eyes
that's a good question.
She's a bit redeemed, or you still need to settle on it?
I think, and I'm sorry to all the Fives crew out there, I'm still a part of the Fives gang, but I think Nala Se has redeemed herself. You
heard it here first on the Star Wars Exchange. Beautiful.
That was honestly a really good moment, though. Like, man, I'm still just like, riding the emotions of that finale. Like, that was just a great moment. And like, while this finale didn't wrap up everything, that was something they wrapped up really well, was that whole Rampart, Nala Se, just everything with that. Like, I thought after season 2 Rampart, we're never going to see him again. But no, like, these writers know what they're doing. And yeah, I guess I'll just get into my thoughts. But yeah, last week I said, and I've been vigorously writing my notes down as I was listening to Mike speak. But yeah, last week I said, please stick the landing, because look at shows in the last few years that haven't, and how that's, sort of the memory of those shows have been tarnished a little bit. While this wasn't a perfect finale, this landing was 100% stuck. And that was purely just because these writers know what they're doing. They're so talented. They have a story that they want to tell, and they just told it over 3 seasons, and they really achieved that well. The messaging was clear. The characters were fleshed out. Just overall, like, this finale was just driven by the emotional side of things. It wasn't really like this insane story going on. While the story was cool and there was like a lot going on there, it was really like the emotions of these characters, Crosshair, Hunter, Omega, everything. Like, they all feel like they had really complete character arcs. Like, Crosshair has just got to have one of the best character arcs in Star Wars. And thank you so much to the writers for not killing him, like, genuinely, because all these characters that get redeemed, they just end up dying. But not only does Crosshair not die in the finale, we get to hear that he lived happily ever after on Pabu with his brothers after all the stuff they went through. So I just think that is like such one of my favorite things, if not my favorite thing about this entire series, is Crosshair. And I'm sure that's not going to be that's going to be a popular opinion, but rightfully so, because like everything they did with him was just awesome. And I love the way they wrapped that arc up. And I think everyone probably saw it coming, but when they were aiming at Omega and oh my god, what's the scientist's name? I'm blanking.
Emery?
No.
Dr. Carr?
No.
The mad scientist.
Yeah.
Hemlock.
when they were aiming at Hemlock and Omega, I literally out loud was like, oh god, he's gonna have to take a shot. So yeah, anyway, I love that. And something I love about the finale as well is that they kept it contained. While I would have loved to see Rex and all these Sid, all these other characters, I'm actually just really glad, looking back at it now, that they kept it contained just to the focus, because the story did feel very focused to these characters. And while I don't love that it's like it is a loose end and it's like, oh well, you can watch another show and see that, because I kind of hate that, but just in the grand scheme of things, I'm like, okay, whatever, I can look past that, because I just love that this finale is about the characters that we've been following for 3 seasons, and that's why it was emotional, because it really stuck with us. Like everything they've been through and all those moments that they had at the end were earned. Like something that like people may or may not talk about is this whole show it's been, oh Omega, you get on the ship, you go away, like we'll sort this mission out. I love that it wasn't even like a question. Like I was thinking, oh no, Echo's going to be like, Omega, get on the ship, go away with them. But it wasn't even a question. She just stayed.
Yeah.
And like I just thought that was great. That's development. That's just good storytelling.
Yeah.
All that. So yeah, I just think the series had a story it wanted to tell, or the writers had a story they wanted to tell, and they just went ahead and told it. Like, and that's just perfect. That's what you want to see. Like we said, yeah, Rex, Echo, that looks like they're gonna have a show together, whatever it is. But I think that's a good thing. That's probably, in the grand scheme of things, what we want. It's better than Bad Batch going for 10 seasons, whereas to tell this story and then go, okay, now they've had their story told. Now let's go to Rex and tell that. So whatever it is, you know, and Echo and all that, and maybe that'll be more a political type show, like what we saw in the midway through season 2.
Yeah.
So I'm down for that. And yeah, again, I don't love that. Like, I hate when shows set up shows and like for example, off topic, but the Walking Dead finale was okay, but it set up like 4 different shows. Like it felt more like a soft launch for all those shows rather than a finale. And so I don't like that aspect of this finale. But then again, I appreciate that it almost, in setting up that finale, was to not focus on those characters. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that sacrifice. Ventress as well, like she's sort of just wandering around. Maybe she'll be involved in this show that we're talking about. But yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised she didn't show up, to be honest. I think last week I predicted that was where Omega's path was going. But that would kind of contradict the message if Ventress came and was like, kid, I need to train you. Because the message is like, you have fought for your freedom and now you get to live your life. You know what I mean? And that was just like such a beautiful message for the clones. Like I couldn't have been more happy that that's where this ended, because it's like, after being born into a system where you have to go and fight a war, you have to do all these things, you're obliged to do these things. The one clone that didn't do it, that we see in episode 2 from the Clone Wars, who am I talking about? Cutler Quain.
Oh, right.
Cutler, the one clone that doesn't do that is like looked down upon, you know. So I'm like, no, now we all get to be Cutler Quain. You know, you go and choose if you want to live here on Pabu, and that's how you want to live your life, then that's what you get to do. And that final shot of them at the tree, and I'm not a film nerd or anything. I mean, I am, but like I'm not trying to sound like one, but the cinematography is actually incredible. There was a few shots, like the one of them sitting at the tree, the one of Omega, Crosshair, and Hunter walking away from the rain. And that was almost like them walking away from like Camino in a way. Yeah. You know, just oh my, some beautiful tear-jerking shots. Like I'm already thinking next time I go to a con, an artist is going to have like that, you know, a really nice painting of that I'm going to buy and put on my wall. Like, absolutely. Just unbelievable. And I have more thoughts, but you go ahead. Do you have anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think overall Bad Batch is a story of redemption, and I think it really proved that this finale with Crosshair and Nalase, and I just felt
Emery.
Like, and Emery, right, the big one. So I feel like that was really cool in itself. And I love the Emery at the end, and they had some really hard hitting dialogue with Crosshair at the beginning, saying like, "It's what I deserve," like to die at Mount Tantus, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" Like that was just so deep, because it's like all this stuff that, I mean, and Rebels really paved the way with Callus living through all that and whatever. But like,
shout out Rebels.
We've just come such a far way with redemption stories that, you know, just because you were bad one day and you were bad for a year, and then one day you have a change of heart, that doesn't mean you have to die the next day, right?
Exactly.
And I think Rebels showed that, and this showed that too, but to a larger extent, where things are getting addressed, like you know, with Callus joining the Rebel Alliance, it was almost too easy, right? I think. But I mean, it was just starting it off, right? But here we got all the tough questions, and even we got tough sentiments, like Crosshair again saying, "It's what I deserve," and it was just so hard hitting, right? And then I love that that the rest of them were like, no, we're
Yeah.
gonna go in together. And Emery at the end of the episode was like, I have a lot to make up for. And it's like, that is awesome.
It's what you decide to do tomorrow. It's
Right.
not what you did yesterday.
Exactly.
And it's just such a beautiful message for like a show that's geared toward like a younger audience as well. I think like
it is.
It's fantastic. And yeah, Wrecker's response saying that don't even think about Plan 99, and then Tech saying Crosshair saying Clone Force 99 died with Tech. I just thought like I don't even know what to think of that.
Yeah.
You know, like what are your thoughts on that?
Kind of reminded me of going back to Rebels, sorry, but it kind of reminded me of a Phoenix Squadron dying with Commander Sato when he died at the end of season 3, and they're like, oh well, we're no longer Phoenix Squadron, we're just a Rebel Alliance type deal. But at the same time, it's like, no, I still, that was just Crosshair's opinion. Like I don't think Hunter or Wrecker believe that. I think they'll always be Clone Force 99. I don't, and same with Echo. I think that's just Crosshair's like sentiment, but I don't, because the same could have been said, oh, Clone Force 99 died when Crosshair went over to the Empire. It's kind of along those same lines. So
I guess maybe like another interpretation of that could be that Crosshair feels like, and maybe they all feel like, when Tech died, that was sort of the end of like them sort of being like a military group. Now they're just like a group of clones who are a family. They're not like a clone force anymore. Like that, like Crosshair's objective seems to just be get Omega and then like let's just get out here. Like he doesn't care about fighting the Empire or anything like that. He just wants to get Omega and get out of there. So maybe that's what he's trying to say. I don't really know, but it whatever that means, I just love that it was like a thought-provoking sort of comment, and like it just makes you think, and it shows you where Crosshair's really at. Like, man, I just love that character. He's just such an amazing character.
No, for sure. And I think to that also, Bad Batch just feels like a smaller piece in a larger story. Like I really like the whole Clone Rebellion thing. I mean, we all want to see that, and it for a moment it felt like this show was leading up to that at one point. It was leading up to that at one point, but it's. I love that they didn't save everything for the finale to kind of, splinter off into different shows, or, kind of what you're saying about The Walking Dead. But there's pieces that they've been building that seem to be lending to other stories, which is pretty cool. So it feels like we'll get more consistency here than with the live action movies. But and also at the end when the Star Destroyer showed up, it just felt like the end of an era. It was like
definitely
no more, I mean, and I love that you only saw one. It wasn't like 3 right away. It's like it's
a soft launch.
Yeah, exactly, a soft launch. It's like, oh my gosh. So that was actually, I mean, the Star Destroyer almost. I was looking at it and it literally looked like the Star Destroyer from Rogue One. I was like, oh my god, this looks live action. This looks photorealistic. But absolutely love that moment, because it was sad. It means that we're really gearing towards the total hard launch of the Empire. Like, once we get TIE fighters, who knows, we'll be seeing TIE fighters pretty soon. Well, actually, no, because Bad Batch is over. I was thinking, I'm like, next season we might see,
maybe in the Rex
but
show.
And there's, they have a whole toy chest to play with. They still have the Martez sisters. They just have all these characters that they introduced. But I'm saying, like, because the Martez sisters are kind of working with Ahsoka, they have so many alleys to explore. They still have Senator Chuchi. So I mean, oh my gosh, they just this
who got a shout out as well.
Exactly. And I mean, I don't think we'll get. I'll never think we'll get a resolution on Sid, but
we don't need to. I think Sid's story's been told.
I think it just goes to show how life is. Sometimes it's like you will never get closure on some things, and this is not one of those questions where I'm like, man, well, I really want to know what I'm gonna say, but it's just like, hey, she served her purpose, and that's it.
You know what I think as well is great about Sid being in the story is maybe that some people are worth fighting for and some people are not. You know what I mean? Like Crosshair was worth fighting for. He was their brother. They knew that was good at him. Sid never really showed them that she was ever worth trusting or worth being a friend or worth someone worth being in their life, because she would use them and all that sort of thing. And maybe that's what they're trying to say with that, you know.
I'm hearing an echo from our conversation yesterday.
What was our conversation yesterday?
It was about that, that we had in our little nature walk yesterday about giving people or having people are worth, some people are worth fighting for, some people are not.
Oh,
So that's funny
true.
that it resembled today. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I agree with that.
Definitely. And I think some more thoughts is like, people have forever asked about the clone. What happens to the clones after Evangelist? What happens to the clone after Order 66? And I'm so glad to say that I feel like the Bad Batch has answered that question for the most part.
Yeah.
The clone story has been told.
Yeah,
and told well.
Yes. It's I have to pinch myself all the time because again, I've told this story on this podcast. I remember when the Clone Wars ended, with season 5, and I sat there and I just got really depressed when I saw on my little IGN app. I don't know if they still have it, but you would read all the news articles from their website there, like if it was like a social media app, and it popped up that the Clone Wars stories were going to be shuttered off into different mediums, and the Son of Dathomir was the comic preview was out, or they were gonna show a preview, and I just remember being so crushed that we almost saw this on screen, and now it just feels like everything's over. And obviously it's just like you could have not been more pleased with the Lost Missions when they released that, and okay, we've got some type of finale, but then we got season 7 and they got to finish it off, and then it finally felt like you had closure. We said all these questions, and now they went ahead, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, as like a diehard Clone Wars fan, I'm just like, I would have never imagined in the midst of season 2 when I started watching the show consistently that I was like, we're gonna go all the way. God bless. We're gonna go all the way past Order 66 and tell what happens to these clones and all, which is insane to me. So I'm very grateful for whether we get that Clone Rebellion story or not. I'm so grateful that they even went past this, and as what you said, the messaging about them being born and bred to fight, now to being able to choose their freedom and all that's just very heartwarming. And I just love the messaging of it. And we spent over a decade with these clones, and feels like we're nearing like 2 decades with them, I'm pretty sure. But
2008, it's 15 years.
So I mean, you could have just not been more pleased with the Bad Batch story, and I'm glad it was. I said this at the beginning of when last year's celebration that we were covering, when they announced that the third season would be its final.
Yeah, that was in London, wasn't it?
Yeah, oh, wow. And I remember just being like, good, like if they, not a bad way, but just they know their story. Great. If they know how the limits of their story, they know where to end it. Great. I rather, as you just said, this being a shorter series than going on for 5 seasons just to get to the point where we have all these random episodes.
Just say what you want to say.
Yeah, exactly.
No, for sure. And I think something that you mentioned as well is like this really truly does feel like the end of an era, and it felt like a really great way to say goodbye. It was a great ending, and in a way a good beginning to what's next. Like, and it sort of left it in a way like, yeah, sure, I hope they do that show, and I don't love that was like set up and all that, but it was a nice way to be like, okay, that's sort of there if it's needed. It doesn't feel like this glaring thing of like, well, if that show doesn't get made, like this feels incomplete. It would a little bit, but not too much. And I just love that, like for the Bad Batch at least, and the clones in general, it's like this really was like the end of an era, and that story was told really well.
Exactly. And I look forward to whatever what's the next Lucasfilm animation project, but I'm okay waiting for a year or 2 before that.
No, for sure. I can't wait to get more animation. I think we're looking at probably an announcement in Japan. I think for the next animated series, I predict, or maybe they'll announce it before, and then the trailer will come in Japan.
That's
or something
true.
Like that. Celebration, of course, I'm talking about. Stardust as well. That was a nice little link in. I thought just from talking. And I guess just like we were talking to this about Parks actually over the weekend when we were hanging out with him at C2E2, but this felt like this whole season felt different, and I think some people liked that, some people didn't. But I think no matter how you feel, I think you just have to respect like the story they were trying to tell and like the intentions of that, and that they were trying to be different. Not that they were trying to be different, but they were just trying to do what they wanted to do. And if this felt like an artistic vision, this didn't felt like a Mandalorian season 3 pumped out of Disney's factory type deal. This just felt like a great season of television where whether you enjoyed it or not, you unplugged the headphones. Whether you enjoyed the series or not, it's like there's that creative vision behind it that I really loved. And this finale did feel very different. And this season as a whole felt very different. But I liked some of it. I didn't like some of it. I loved some of it. But I just what I love most is just the creativity, the intentions behind it, everything like that. So yeah, it did feel different.
And I just gotta say, like, compared to last season, this season felt very organized, structured, and it felt like we were going to something, and that's why all eyes were on the finale and such, because we're like, oh, there's so many stakes, and we really need this to conclude the way you guys have been setting it up. So for me, I'm very satisfied with the finale.
Yeah, likewise. And I think I said last week about just trusting the writers, and that just couldn't be more true. I trusted them, and they've really followed through. We were like, there's no way the finale can go for 20 minutes. And yeah, because the writers know that, and they did a 50-minute finale, which is perfect because the first episode of the show is about 60, 70 minutes, and the finale is like 50 minutes. I love that. Like,
you don't got to split off into part 1 and part 2.
Yes, exactly. Just this is the story. Yeah, exactly. I completely agree. I was so happy with the runtime and just everything, and the characters lived, I think, was great. The story was emotional and hit us in the feels without having to kill someone or do something. Well, I guess Nala say and Rampart, but the main characters I think lived on, which was very important. And yeah, like I said, I just love the messaging at the end that we can go and do what we want now. Like that we fought for our freedom, and now our lives we've taken back control of our lives where we can do whatever we want. And I just thought that was fantastic. And, man, that epilogue, I love the way Hunter looks. Like, I just want a portrait of that in my room. Like that was just awesome.
That was vibes. And it makes me think to Rebels why Rex didn't call upon, the former Bad Batch. Well, because he was respecting their choice of freedom and everything.
That is such a great point. That is such a great
point. And I don't know what happens with Echo, but I don't. If you would think that Rex would call upon him in Rebels for whatever reason, but I guess he might be he doing something else in the galaxy, or maybe not alive. But I really want to. Echo's story continues.
That's such a great point, though. I love that they can sort of go off, and a part of me was sort of like, I don't love that they're showing this, because it feels like, everything that happens in between the final scene and the epilogue in the Star Wars timeline, people can be like, why did the Bad Batch come to that? But I'm like, no, I love that it's like they fought their war, they fought for their freedom, and now everyone just respects that they should be able to just live their lives now, And Omega said, like, literally says that at the end, you fought your fight, now I'm going to fight mine. You know what I mean?
You know what I just thought about?
What?
The reunion of Hera and Omega.
Damn.
That just hit me.
That would be epic.
That just hit me.
Holy crap. Yeah.
But yeah.
Man, we just had a moment there. That would be amazing. I didn't think about that, but for sure. I really do wonder, like, where, I'm not to be like too much of a nerd about, but I wonder when exactly that scene is. Like, is that before A New Hope, a bit after?
Right. No, for a second, I'm like, I just thought, I'm like, whoa, are they living all the way in First Order times? That's where my mind went. But I'm like, wait, no.
Yeah.
They're living in the Age of Rebellion era, and I'm excited for, I love that. I love the Rebellion era, and I love that it's been, grown out with Rebels first, and then we're getting all these comics about it, and then, Rogue One amplified that, and Andor's amplifying that. But I'm loving that. I'm really loving that. I'm hoping it's after maybe the destruction of the Death Star. I think Omega would have heard that and been like, it's time for me to fight to join this rebellion. But
I think what I love as well is, like, Omega can have a story going forward if they want to do something with it. They can. I don't feel like that's a necessity, though. You know.
Right.
But if that happens, I'd be happy with it. What is most definitely not a necessity, and we don't need, is any members of the Bad Batch, Crosshair, Wrecker, or Hunter. Their story is told, so leave them be, please. Like, genuinely, I don't want people to be like, can we get a comic in between the end of the... I'm like, no, because the show told the story perfectly, and it should be left at that, Also, I love that they ended up on Pabu. And I was thinking, oh, why would they go back to Pabu? Like the Empire knows they're there, whatever. I think that doesn't even need to be explained. Like I think we can figure that out for ourselves. Is that Tarkin literally says at the end of the episode, divert all funds to Stardust. He does not give one F about
Right.
what's his name? Why do I keep forgetting his name?
Hemlock.
He does not give one F about Hemlock's plan or anything to do with that, about the clones. The clones are just like dead to Tarkin. He doesn't care about them anymore. Like there's no need for him to go off and look for them, you know?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah, I love that they ended up on Pabu, and it is safe for them because of that, you know? They're probably not thinking, oh, I wonder what happened to that. You know, no one was really worried about that besides Hemlock. So,
right.
Yeah, I love that that's where they finished. And that was so well set up in one of the most underrated episodes of the series, Pabu, in season 2. I love that episode.
Yeah.
That episode literally showed them what their life could be like. And then by the end of the series, they get to that.
Yeah.
Something that I kind of hope Mandalorian does.
Yeah.
With episode 4 of season 1.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I love that where Omega was like, what happens to all the clones now? And she's like, and Hunter's like, wherever they want to go. Like they can they can stay on Papu, they can leave, but they have free will.
They have
like,
the choice.
They have the choice. And even take that back to when Echo was trying to save Omega. I know you guys have been through a lot, but he didn't even say like, guys, please, I need your help, like guilt trip them into this. He just said, you've all fought hard enough and you deserve your freedom. But who wants to stand with me and help save my friends? And there, you even saw some people that didn't help out, that it looked like they were too injured to help out. But then there's the others who stood up and fought. So that was great. That was a little clone moment, and I totally love that one of the clones was one to kill one of the Imperial clone experiments, and it wasn't just the Bad Batch taking them out. So that was very well done.
As well, the kids as well, they got out. Yeah. And I love that was dealt with early, because the story's not about them, like I was saying earlier. So it was good to deal with that early, but then come back to it at the very end.
Yes, absolutely.
And yeah, again, like what I love about a lot of this, like 90% of it, outside of the Echo and Rex stuff, is like we don't need like stories about, oh, let's have a series about those four sensitive kids. It's like, no,
yeah, right.
They have been freed because of like the fight, you know, they can now go and live their lives with their families. I don't need to worry about anything else.
Yep.
I think that's so great. But yeah, I'm just skipping through the episode now to see if there's anything we missed. But something that I thought was interesting was like the clone enforcers. I was so worried for a second. I was like, was that Hemlock's plan? Was that like was that Project Necromancer, those clones? But it sounds like it's not. But I like that they had like this epic clone fight at the end, you know?
Yeah, that was really well done. Yeah, I definitely don't think it was. I think it was very different to what we saw. But geez, I mean, I got to go back and rewatch like the first couple episodes of Bad Batch and see. There's some specific framing where Hemlock and Palpatine were looking at these clone subjects or whatnot, but were they looking at these clone experiments? Were they, you know, who knows what they were looking at? But it was very cool at the end when Tarkin showed up on there and was like, divert all funding to Project Stardust. Like, we're done with this.
Yeah.
So that was really menacing. And we were almost expecting Vader to show up for a second, you know. And I'm sort of disappointed that we never got to see any Inquisitors, but then I remember that we're getting the Tales of the Empire later this week, so I'm just like, wait, never mind. I'll get my Inquisitor fix, right? You know,
the Grand Inquisitor's coming back. We haven't seen it for a long time.
Yeah, so I don't know. Everything still feels raw, and I feel like doing a complete season rewatch of Bad Batch, right? I'm sorry, a series rewatch to see how this finale stacks up. But I mean, I feel like I got closure on the series, but then there's a door open for future stories that doesn't feel like this is all over, you know? So maybe in this Clone Rebellion story, we don't need to see, you know, Hunter, we don't need to see Crosshair, we don't need to see Wrecker, but we don't. So that's
what's great about this finale.
Yes, it is.
Definitely. The Zillow base, let's talk about it.
Yeah, it's crazy how this creature that came out long ago in like 2010 that debuted on, you know, in season 2 of Clone Wars, and we were left wondering for all these years, for a decade, really more than a decade, wondering what the heck happened to the Zillow Beast. Like, we were left on the ominous note of it being cloned and whatnot, and then we get to what I thought was a very lackluster episode, especially when it's like, oh my god, it's the return of the Zilla Beast, and I thought it was a very lackluster episode in season 2 where the Zilla Beast shows up, the clone of, and they're doing all these crazy experiments, and he's doing some wreck and havoc, and then he's captured again, and it's like, whoa, I don't understand where we're going with this. This felt so random to me. It felt like a random cameo that we were doing in season 1, but just to know that that there's some, and not everything has to have a big payoff, but there was some big payoff with the Zilla Beast and causing a diversion, and then it was set free. It's like, that is cool. That is really cool.
And they freed everyone, not just the clones. They freed the Zilla Beast too. One last thought before we start wrapping up our just thoughts of the series is, I find it interesting that Boba Fett never appeared in the show. I'm not like disappointed by it. I just find it interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say I wish we saw Cut LaQuaine in the finale or something. Like, I really wish there was almost like the Rebels finale where you got all those small time players play a big role in the finale.
Yeah.
And I just wish that Cut served this purpose in the series.
Don't disrespect as Morgan, because he didn't come back in the finale.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
I did miss him.
I know. We did miss him. As Morgan. But I really wish that we saw some of the lesser characters play a role in this. But again, not every finale has to be the same. And I'm sure if that all happened, where we saw these characters pop up in a ship, like let's save Omega, it's kind of like, all right, we've seen this before, but in a different style, So I'm glad that this finale, while very in tune with what a finale is in Star Wars, felt very different from the rest of them. So that was good. That I respect that, where I didn't need to see all that, but there's still in me where I wish we got some conclusion with Cut LaQuaine, or maybe we'll see him down the line doing something. But he definitely set up that that style of life for the Bad Batch too. He's
straight away,
right?
Yeah, that's such a great point. This show is so good at bookending. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe like we're saying with the Bad Batch, like they just respected that Cut LaQuaine was going off to live his life with his family. He didn't need to come back and fight another fight.
Right.
But
Cody, where's Cody at?
Yeah, I think that's something that they're leaving for the Rex story, whatever that's going to be.
For sure.
Let's start, like, before we wrap up, let's just look back at the series, like 3 seasons. We'll do a series review, but just after watching the finale, how do you feel about the Bad Batch as a show? Because one of my first thoughts was, looking back, I feel like for the most part, every episode mattered, that maybe 1 or 2 you could take out, but I feel like pretty much every episode mattered. Like you look back at that Zilla Beast episode. There's episodes maybe like The Crossing that I don't particularly love, but you can still make a case for it. You know what I mean? Anyway, what are your thoughts looking back on the series, and just summarize your thoughts on every Bad Batch thought you have, and rate the episode and the series and all that?
Yeah. It's I love how unified this series felt. Like, it felt like we were going in a certain direction from the start. While we might have all thought Clone Rebellion, I love that this show felt like it very much had a heart. Not like Clone Wars, where the heart changed every week. I mean, Ahsoka was still at the heart of the show, Anakin and Ahsoka, but it really changed every week. But I love that we got like a consistency with this show. Even though it like very much the focus determined on the clone at the beginning of the series with, Omega. I already said that at the beginning of this episode, but I just love that story-wise, narrative-wise, we were really on a strong front going in a specific direction. I mean, at the end of season 1, the whole destruction of Camino is still very emotional. Like, that's such an impactful finale where it's just like, oh my God, like this. I love that they took little stuff from Star Wars or stuff that wasn't really shed light on and just brought it up to the forefront and made a decision. We're going to destroy Camino in this show. Like, I love that that they answered very hard questions in season 3, and they were just doing all the hard stuff. Cody, like all these questions that fans have had, like what happened to Cody? Where is Cody? They were addressing all this stuff, and they weren't scared to show it. Just like how Rebels was addressing like how the Rebel Alliance formed, what the situation looked like for the Death Star later on, and they were just addressing all these like hard-hitting questions, and that's exactly how I feel Bad Batch did. They weren't scared to they weren't shying away from answering fan questions or whatever. And they made them really interesting stories where it just didn't feel like, hey, we're going to show you this because you've been wondering. It felt like everything had a purpose. And Omega's story, again, we said this a couple weeks ago. I think you were still in Australia. Omega is just up there with Ezra, with and with Ahsoka. Like, oh my god, I would so kill to see Omega, Ezra, and Ahsoka together.
Oh my god,
wouldn't that be something?
That's like the holy trinity. Right there.
Forget Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. Like, that is the holy trinity right there. Yeah. But anyways, yeah, I mean, overall, like, Bad Batch is, again, season 2 was very rocky for me. I got to rewatch it properly, not like in a rush mode that I did for season 3. But I really think that Bad Batch is something special. And knowing that D. Bradley Baker and the voice for Omega, Michelle Ang? Yeah. Yeah. How amazing, what an amazing job they did carrying this whole show. And also the animators, how great the animation was, how the sound design was, how much the music mattered, and how great it was. I mean, even today we were talking about, like, there was this really loud screeching and it just came to a halt. It sounded like my home theater just shut off completely. Yeah. I mean, this show has just been really something special, and I applaud all the people at Lucasfilm Animation for making this happen, just because I mean, again, you just answered all the hard-hitting questions, and you did it in a way that just felt very special and unique. And I just want to go back to all the goofy episodes and season 2 and just have a good time. You know, like the Gunji episode, just sit back and be like, wow, like, we're just living in this Bad Batch time. Just how we go back now and go back to Rebel season episodes that just, not that they don't matter, but the ones that have a less impact on the story and just chill out with them. It's like, it feels like hanging out with the crew.
Fight or flight.
Right. Yeah. It just feels like we're hanging out with the characters. So Absolutely. Bad Batch, I cannot wait to get the collection, the Blu-ray collection, and put it in my shelf.
If that ever comes out.
Yeah. But I cannot be more pleased with the show, and it feels such I mean, you just cannot have a greater successor to Clone Wars and Rebels. Like, this feels like it's going to be a story talked about for years to come.
Completely agree. I don't have much to add to that besides just the whole show. I've said it a million times in this episode and throughout our coverage. I just love that the writers just have a story they want to tell. Just the creative, artistic integrity, it's just incredible. And this doesn't feel pumped out of a factory, nothing like that. This just feels like a really well put together, organized show that was planned out and has vision and everything like that. The characters are gonna, Hunter and Crosshair, Omega, Wrecker, those guys are going to Tech. Those characters are really going to live on in Star Wars folklore. You know what I mean? People are going to talk about those characters forever and ever. So just shout out to Jennifer Corbett, Brad Rao, Dave Filoni, everyone that worked on the show. Such a D. Bradley Baker, Michelle Ang, like, just incredible show. Like, wasn't perfect, but none of the Star Wars animated shows have been, you know, and that's right. Kind of why we love them. So yeah, really, really great show. The finale, I'd probably give like a 8.5 out of 10, I reckon.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I depending on our podcasting schedule, but I would totally love to sit down and, I mean, we're going to be reviewing Tales of the Empire. Yep. But I really, really want to do like a series overview of the Bad Batch. Maybe we'll bring some friends on here to talk about it, but I think it's just appropriate to, like, give the show the time and space, you know, because it's just been so good.
We'll definitely try and get that done. And real quick, off the top of your head now, this doesn't have to be concrete, but what would you rank the 3 seasons of the show?
Like, in what order?
Yeah.
Just not, you're not telling me to score every one of them. But
no. Just like
what rating? Season 3 for sure as number 1, season 1, and then season 2.
It could change for me, but I think I'm the exact same. Yeah, I think this was the strongest season of the show.
Season 2, though, like, the episodes that hit that high really hit that high.
They went off the charts. Yeah.
And that finale last year with the death of Echo Plan 99. Like, I go back and watch that finale and the whole escape from the summit and the way they're on the rail cars. Amazing stuff. Like, it's sound design and just look wise, animation wise, it's amazing. Like, that finale was great, and it was totally The Empire Strikes Back, and this finale was Return of the Jedi. Like, you got that structure. So For me right now, it's 3-1-2.
Yeah, likewise. And that is the end of our Bad Batch coverage for good. We've been covering the show since season 2. Since before season 2 came out, actually. So yeah, it's been super fun. Thanks to everyone who's tuned in to listen to us talk about Bad Batch all this time. So it's been great.
Well, I think you and I, this was before it was called the Star Wars Exchange.
Yeah.
I was on one of the episodes, or maybe even 2 episodes.
Bad Batch, you're right.
Season 1, or I think we did like a season 1 overview or something.
We did.
So that's great. Like we've been covering this, and
the entire show.
This podcast has been really cool to do for Bad Batch, and I mean, it got us to be friends, even more friends, because you would join our watch parties for season 1,
that's
and
true.
we would stay up arguing about why the minecart episode mattered or didn't matter. And you know, and now we're here talking about the finale and in person as well, which is crazy.
I know, it's awesome. It felt very fitting, but
yeah,
man, that wraps us up, and we got to sort of cut this one short because I got to go to the airport and catch a flight, unfortunately. But once again, thanks to everyone. Follow Mike at @all_Star Wars, me at Star Wars_Exchange, the pod page at the SW Exchange, all on Instagram. Would really appreciate if you subscribed and subscribe to the channel and like the video. It means a lot. And drop a 5-star review if you're listening on an audio platform. It's been a hell of a ride. Appreciate all of you. Thank you to the Bad Batch creators. Yep, great show. Can't wait to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Until then, may the force be with you always.
Adios.